Before we even talk about One Piece, we need to talk about why time travel destroys stories. In almost every fictional universe, the moment time travel exists, the stakes collapse. If you can go back, death loses meaning, sacrifice becomes temporary, consequences stop mattering. Every tragedy turns into a question: why didn't they just go back? Ace, O'Hara, Oden, Fisher Tiger. Time travel doesn't just rewrite events, it rewrites emotion. And Eiichiro Oda understands this better than almost any writer alive. That's why One Piece waited over 900 chapters before even touching time travel. And when it finally did, it didn't open the door. It sealed it shut. Oda's philosophy was always seen as time is a one-way river, and he has always treated time as irreversible. Look at how One Piece handles loss. Ace never comes back. Whitebeard dies standing. O'Hara stays burned. Oden's execution is final. There are no resets, no alternate timelines, no, actually, this version survived. Why? Because One Piece is a story about inherited will, and inheritance only matters if the previous generation is gone. Time in One Piece is not a sandbox, it's a river. You can jump forward, but you can never swim upstream. And the Toki Toki no Mi is the purest expression of that idea. So why backward time travel would break One Piece? Let's be very clear. If backward time travel existed in One Piece, the Will of D becomes meaningless. Joy Boy's failure becomes optional. The Void Century becomes editable. Imu loses all power. Everything collapses. Backward time travel would allow someone to warn the ancient kingdom, stop the world government, prevent the poneglyphs, erase the current world entirely. So Oda didn't avoid backward time travel, he rejected it philosophically. Because One Piece is not about fixing the past, it's about surpassing it. So these are the 3 laws of the Toki Toki no Mi. You already laid this out. Now we weaponize it. Law number 1. You can only move forward. This doesn't just prevent paradoxes, it enforces moral responsibility. If you flee into the future, you abandon your era, you accept everything that happens without you, and you carry the weight of what you left behind. Toki didn't escape suffering. She postponed hope. Law number 2. You arrive in the same place. This is massive and criminally underrated. The Toki Toki no Mi does not free you from geography. History in One Piece is location-bound. Wano must suffer in Wano. The Dawn must rise in Wano. The Kouzuki must return to Wano. You cannot outrun destiny by changing islands. This is Oda saying, you can leave your time, but not your responsibility. Law number 3. The fruit was removed from the world for 800 years. This is the part that should terrify you. For 800 years, this fruit did nothing. No wars, no shortcuts, no interference. It waited. That means one of 2 things. Either 1, Toki's mission was pre-planned, or 2, history itself required a delayed correction. And both options are terrifying. So Toki is not a time traveler, but a timekeeper. Toki is often misunderstood. She wasn't jumping around to explore eras. She was waiting for the right one. Think about it. Born in the Void Century, knows the world is wrong, knows Joy Boy failed, knows something must happen in the future. So what does she do? She preserves herself. Not to change history, but to outlive it. Toki is not a character. She is a mechanism. A living bridge between the ancient world and the final saga. So why Toki spoke at the moment of death? Why did Toki announce the prophecy publicly? Because prophecies in One Piece do something very specific. They shape behavior. Once spoken, hope survives. Resistance organizes. History aligns itself. Toki didn't predict the 9 shadows. She activated them. So let's get to Oden, the man who accepted death because time was on his side. Oden's calm makes no sense, unless he knew. Not hoped, not believed, knew. He wasn't gambling on Luffy. He was trusting time itself. That's why he laughed. That's why he danced. That's why he died smiling. Because his role wasn't to win. It was to hand the future a loaded weapon. Would this mean Luffy is the unknowing answer to an 800-year question? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Luffy is free, but the world was prepared for him. The poneglyphs, the roadstones, the Kouzuki, the waiting kings, the waiting seas, and yes, the waiting samurai. The Toki Toki no Mi didn't choose Luffy. It made sure the world would be ready when he arrived. And this is where things get disturbing. Because if the Toki Toki no Mi guarantees one future, then that means there is a future that must not happen. And someone, or something, has been preventing it for 800 years. So, if the Toki Toki no Mi guarantees one inevitable future, then logic forces us to confront a terrifying truth. There must be futures that are actively being prevented. One Piece is not a story where anything can happen. It is a story where very specific things must happen. Joy Boy failed. The ancient kingdom fell. The world government won. That outcome became the foundation of the current world. So ask yourself this: what kind of future would require a power that can skip centuries just to make sure the right people are alive at the right time? A future so dangerous that history itself had to delay its arrival. So, Emu enters the stage, the anti-future. Now we talk about Emu. Emu is not just a king. Emu is not just immortal. Emu is a static being in a dynamic world. Everything about Emu represents stagnation, an empty throne frozen in time, a world locked into the same power structure for 800 years, a history that is erased, not allowed to evolve. Emu doesn't rule the world. Emu preserves it, and that is why time travel matters. The horror scenario would be Emu with the Toki Toki no Mi. Let's pretend the unthinkable is true. Let's say Emu possesses the Toki Toki no Mi. There is one scenario so dangerous that even the world government could never allow it to happen. Emu with the Toki Toki no Mi. Not because it happened, but because it must never happen. Kouzuki Toki carried this power for over 800 years, and during that entire time, the world government never controlled it. Think about that. An ability that can bypass centuries, that can escape any era, was completely outside their reach. And that's not an accident, because if an immortal ruler ever gained the ability to move forward through time, they wouldn't need to rule forever. They would simply skip. If threatened, they wouldn't fight. They wouldn't retreat. They would disappear into the future, wait for history to forget, and return when resistance no longer exists. Not a reset, a skip. That is why this fruit is so dangerous, and that is why it was never in Emu's hands. Some powers are too absolute to be controlled by tyranny, and the Toki Toki no Mi is one of them. Joy Boy's failure was not a lack of power. And here's the critical shift. Joy Boy did not fail because he was weak. He failed because the world wasn't ready. The races weren't united. The technology wasn't mature. The truth couldn't spread. Joy Boy reached the right answer at the wrong time, and time punished him for it. Then the Void Century, a war over timing. The Void Century wasn't just a war of ideology. It was a war over when the truth should exist. The ancient kingdom believed in acceleration. The world government believed in delay. One wanted the future now, the other wanted to control when it arrives, and the world government won. So why Toki was never meant to save Joy Boy? This is crucial. If Toki existed during Joy Boy's era, why didn't she send him forward? Because Joy Boy wasn't meant to win. His role was to fail so the world could learn. The Toki Toki no Mi wasn't meant to save the past. It was meant to protect the conditions of the final victory. Toki didn't abandon Joy Boy. She inherited his unfinished sentence. So the dawn is not a moment, it is a deadline. Everyone talks about the dawn of the world as if it's poetic. It's not. It's urgent. The dawn is not something that eventually happens. It's something that must happen before something else does. That's why timing matters so much in One Piece. 20 years, 800 years, one generation, one era ending. The world cannot afford to wait forever. So why the final saga feels rushed, and why it isn't? Many fans say Oda is rushing the final saga. He isn't. The story is running out of time. Every arc is colliding. Ancient Weapons, Nika, Emu, the Will of D, the One Piece itself. Because once the conditions are right, there is no delay mechanism left. The terrifying possible, the Toki Toki no Mi, is gone. What if the fruit has already served its purpose? What if it preserved the right bloodlines, delivered the right people, and then disappeared? What if the final saga exists in a world where no one can escape forward anymore? That would mean no postponement, no delay, no second chances, only confrontation. So what about freedom versus destiny? Let's return to Bonnie. Bonnie can become what she believes in. That is terrifyingly human. But belief is fragile. Toki's power does not rely on belief. It relies on inevitability. This is Oda showing us two philosophies. Bonnie asks, "What future do I want?" Toki answers, "This is the future that will happen." And the final saga is where these two ideas collide. And here's the paradox. If everything has been prepared, why does Luffy still feel unpredictable? Because Luffy is not Destiny's servant. He is Destiny's stress test. The world prepared for Joy Boy, but Joy Boy this time is free. That's the difference. So let's talk about the true role of the One Piece. The One Piece is not a weapon. It's not treasure. It's a confirmation. A message from the past saying, you made it to the right time. Roger laughed not because it was funny, but because he realized he arrived too early, and now someone else won't. In my case, time is the real antagonist. The greatest enemy in One Piece is not Emu. It's not the world government. It's time itself. Time erases truth. Time dilutes rebellion. Time protects tyrants. And the Toki Toki no Mi exists to fight time by obeying it. So the Toki Toki no Mi is not a plot device. It is Oda telling us, you cannot fix the past. You cannot escape consequence. You cannot rush liberation. But if you prepare long enough, if you preserve the right wills, if you endure, the future will break open. Wano didn't avoid the night. It survived it. And now, the dawn is no longer optional. So let me ask you, was the Toki Toki no Mi ever about time travel? Or was it about making sure the right people were alive when the world finally couldn't wait anymore? And if this power is gone, does that mean the final saga is the last possible chance? Drop your thoughts, drop your theories, because from here on out, there is no future left to run to.